I want to talk about a little bit about marketing. It seems obvious there's lots of product in the marketplace, but it's how do we get it to your earlier comment, how do we get it to people, and how do we let them know? And what through your experiences have worked? And I know every picture has its own path, but is there anything that you find a tenet of marketing, something is necessary, it has to happen? Daniel?
It's interesting. I mean, one of the things that's been sort of most exciting and sort of surprising to us since getting into this business is the way so much marketing is driven traditionally and by how it's always been done, how you have so much in terms of where people buy, whether it's media, whether it's digital, just so that it'll show up on tracking boards the exact way it's supposed to 3 weeks before it comes out, without any sort of real research saying, actually that's what's best for the movie, or 3 weeks really matters. It's just like, it's 3 weeks because that's when it'll appear on tracking, and if we don't show up right, my boss will yell at me and I'll get in trouble. And I don't want that, so I'm just gonna do what's been done. I'm gonna get those, I'm gonna make sure we have all the bulletin boards, not necessarily like where they would be best, but like where my boss will see them as he drives to work in the morning along his route. And one of the
so
things,
true.
Yeah. And one of the things that's been our sort of privilege is the fact that my brother and I are new to this business, and so we've been able to assemble a fantastic team that takes a new eye towards and basically asks all the questions, and for the first time in a way that a lot of places, the hierarchy doesn't encourage people to ask interesting questions, because it's, how has it been done, do it, and then once that's been covered, then we can try to experiment. So we've been free to do a lot more research and do a lot more data mining and really try to figure out how best to reach our consumers. And it's fascinating because in other fields outside of film, people have made tremendous leaps in micro-targeting, of really being able to find their audiences and to find them, whether it's in the political races where you see it with a sophistication that is truly mind-blowing, to even, just who buys what shoes or who buys Charmin. Like the Charmin people know exactly who, like they know what stores they buy it at, they know what times of month, they know, exactly like what goes through someone's head when they go into that CVS to make that purchase. And for films where we just don't know that often, and but there are a lot of people who are working very hard to find out those answers, and I think we're at a really tremendously exciting point in the business right now because I think everyone is looking for them.
Andrew?
It's interesting, two things. Over the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years, if you think about as digital has expanded and social has expanded, as distribution companies who are responsible for the marketing films out there, it would be much easier if you said, okay, the audience went from here to here. But they didn't. What's happened is the audience has gotten more fragmented. So for example, for my audience, which is the 35 or 40 plus audience, newspaper is still important. There's TV, there's digital, there's social, but we do, as any of us and as producers making a film, there are limited marketing budgets. So our job is to figure out how to take those budgets, spend them over different resources, because audiences are not all moving to one place. So it is really interesting to figure out how to use all the different forms of marketing. But I think you're right. I think especially for independent films, it's finding that unique approach to do it. Sometimes you still do your traditional stuff, but last summer, for example, on I'll See You in My Dreams, we did an entire campaign that was all about, if you think about that film, forget 45 plus, that was 55 plus. We, from the south of Florida, all around the south, up the west, every golf course, every retirement home, every yacht club, everything we had these beautiful posters and cards that were in all of those places, because that's where our audience was. Taking TV, to your point, on that film wasn't going to generate more box office. So it's really figuring out where that core audience is and how to reach them. And figuring out and sometimes it is digital, sometimes it is social, sometimes it is grassroots. It's really, each film is different, and figuring that out and working with the creative team to understand that, and then figuring out how to reach that audience, that leads to the success for an independent film.
And when did you know that? When did you know who that target audience was?
Well, I think that from when we get involved in the film. I think that for us to feel that a film can be, again, a traditional theatrical release film can be successful in the marketplace, however we define success, our going in is who do we believe that core audience is? We have to have an understanding of who that initial core audience is when we get involved in the project. Because everything from whether we get in after the film is made, or we get involved early on and work with the producer and director and bring our sensibility to it, everything is towards that path of how do you get that early core audience to come see the film and be your spokesperson. Because word of mouth is as integral as any other part of marketing right now for a platform independent film. So that is an important aspect. If we can't determine who that core audience is, then chances are we're probably not going to get involved in the film, because it's that important of an aspect in this marketplace when there are many reasons. And again, I'm not saying it's good or bad where people consume content, and a lot of people consume content at home and on their iPhones or on their iPads, on their computer, and that's fine. But if our business is about the theatrical business, then I need to know that we can figure out how to get them to the theater.
Molly, are you thinking about marketing at what point in your production, before your production, and then what influence is that when you have whatever you're thinking? Is that a discussion you have with a distributor who will ultimately market your film?
Absolutely. I think you have to be thinking about marketing before you get involved in any project, and think about where it lives or where the right audience will be able to find said project. But I do think, I mean, if you even talking about it on the major side, because we're financiers, I mean, we absolutely have to think about marketing and think about the marketing budgets and where you end up, or whoever you choose as your distributor. And Sicario actually was a good example, because that was a tough subject matter, and it wasn't an easy film to market, even though the film was phenomenal, with a phenomenal cast and amazing director. It was a subject matter, a border war that we found out on the East Coast they didn't care as much. So I mean, we had to be conservative and very targeted in that marketing campaign. And I think other studios, had we been with a different studio that we weren't working as closely with, it would have been very easy for someone to say, this is an action picture and let's overspend and let's spend $40–50 million, and we wouldn't have been as successful as we were with the film. So I think it's really important today. It's the world has changed in how people are learning about films. I mean, it used to be, people aren't watching television the same. You're not watching Friends every Thursday night, and you're going to buy spots on those television. People are, watching, binge watching television. So I think reaching people and awareness has gotten a little tougher for the traditional forms of marketing. So that's why there's so much effort on social and digital marketing, and I think people have to continue to be creative there in how you're going to reach your audience and who that audience is exactly for your film, knowing who that audience is, and going after them in a smart way with, a smart marketing campaign.
Okay. Jonathan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think, on the VOD and digital side, surprisingly, it's a lot about merchandising. I mean, my first job, I was a college intern, and it was 2005-ish, and I was tracking VHS sales, which is crazy to think about. That's 10 or 11 years ago. And the conversations were the same, like, is it going to be on the new release wall at Walmart? Where's the placement at Best Buy? Today, and I think maybe this is an apropos comment about the sky flying, I mean, Walmart is still a vibrant business for physical media. Target and Best Buy, depending on the movie, can still be a vibrant business for physical media. I wouldn't base a company on it, but so merchandising is tremendously important. In the VOD and digital space, you need to have your film in front of audiences in order to transact. As Daniel mentioned, there's highly sophisticated ways of micro-targeting people. On the VOD side, you can target people who specifically rent VOD movies at this price point, at this hour, at this time, while they're wearing pajamas. I mean, it's insane, the level of targeting. So it's being mindful of that and using that to your advantage when bringing your films to market, and then having great relationships with your partners on the retail side to ensure you're getting that new release placement that can really make or break a film's ability to transact in those windows. And then, obviously, like I think Eye in the Sky is a great example, knowing your audience, critics liking it, fans liking it across the board, but also having a phenomenal campaign. I mean, having a great trailer and a great one sheet is still tremendously important because you need people to know about it and get excited about it. And, you know, those materials have to ask the questions that ultimately the film needs to answer. So, you know, I think as advanced as we've gotten, there's still some really fundamental things that need to happen that drive this business. You know, marketing, collateral, and placement.